Oh, man. I needed like one more week to learn that.
Yeah, me too. Okay. Okay. Here we go. Okay. Bar 4. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. From the top. Here we go, watch the warm-up. Last time. Here we go.
Is that me? All right. How are we doing this morning? Happy St. Patrick's Day to those of you in the sanctuary and those of you watching online. Let's all say Happy St. Patrick's Day to all those online. Happy St. Patrick's Day from Granada Hills in the San Fernando Valley. I know, moan, groan. Some Irishmen are witty and others are not. So, you want a little Irish brogue? I don't want to annoy my relatives over the pond. So, if this is your first time here, but I don't think it is, welcome to the Center for Spiritual Living. If you're watching online, where we welcome all who practice their beliefs in faith and love. And I would like to invite Andrea Recht, our board president, and presider, and later, our general meeting leader. So let's all take a deep conscious breath and just release, and just in that release allow ourselves to surrender to this eternal now moment as we come together for our call to service, which we call lighting the flames of faith. And we perform this ceremony to promote the universal consciousness of life, which acknowledges that all peoples, all faiths, all sentient beings come from the one great universal presence, which we call Spirit. That fundamental to this truth is the unifying nature of all religious thought and experience, which we honor here this morning. So as Andrea lights the first candle, it's for the Tao, honoring the universal path of harmony and equilibrium, the natural way. We light the second candle for shamanic traditions, honoring the beliefs and practices of all indigenous peoples, the way of primal spirituality. We light the third candle for Hinduism, honoring the path of knowledge, action, and devotion. We light the fourth candle for Judaism, honoring the ethical path of living by sacred law. We light the fifth candle for all forms of Buddhism, honoring the Four Noble Truths and the path of compassion. We light the sixth candle for all forms of Christianity, honoring the Christ consciousness as the path of love. The seventh candle we light for all forms of Islam, honoring the path of submission to the will of God as the highest calling. We light the eighth candle for the universalistic religion of Baha'i, honoring the path of unity and peace. The ninth candle we light for all forms of new thought, honoring the metaphysical path of mental healing through the practice of universal spiritual principles. And the 10th candle is lit for all those who are as yet unaware of the power and presence of Spirit in their lives, and for the space we hold for them here at our center. And as Andrea lights the healing candle, please put silently into the light the names of anyone you wish to have experience the healing flame of God's eternal love.
In this moment, in this place, I remember who I am, letting fear and worry fall away from me. I open my eyes and I see there is only love. There is only love. Love that heals, love that sets us free. There is only love.
How very grateful I am to have this opportunity to surrender into that loving presence that is everywhere expressing itself. God is, and God is all there is, and God is love. And I recognize it here. I recognize it as my life. I recognize it as the life of each and every individual present. There cannot be, there never was, there never will be any separation. I speak from this place of unification, knowing that each of us represents wholeness, peace, love, light, joy, beauty, compassion, prosperity, abundance, creativity, and love. And it is in this space of love, from this consciousness of unification, that I simply bless this service, naming it good and very good, blessing our beloved Reverend Mike as he steps forward to be a conduit through which the Word of God speaks through and as. I know that each of us is shifted and lifted into a new dimension of being by virtue of this service. So I give thanks for this, and so much more than words can say. I release this word, allowing it to be so. That's all, and so it is. That is all. Good morning, everybody. I'm happy to be here. Welcome, everybody, to our service this morning. An Irish blessing for you. May the road rise up to meet you. May the wind always be at your back. May the sun shine warm upon your face and rains fall soft upon your fields. And until we meet again, may God hold you in the palm of his hand. So happy St. Patrick's Day. Let me just say that I'm holding a space in my heart, as I know all of us are, for New Zealand, yes. And happy birthday to Suzanne Jensen, one of our practitioners here, who isn't here, but happy birthday anyway. So I don't know if you've ever had the experience of researching something and then it leads you to something else, and then you find yourself going down the rabbit hole, and there you are with what you were supposed to have all the time. So that's what happened to me, and I came across this quote by Ernest Holmes that I'd like to share with you. There are different mental depths and heights from which we may look out upon life, right? We all see things differently. I might see the very same situation from a different perspective than one of you might. From whatever level we look, that which we see comes back to us by an invariable law of attraction. Yes? Right? We agree on that. That which we look upon is real while we look at it. we arrive at a consciousness of unity only in such degree as we see that what we are looking for, we are looking with and looking at. And finally, he says that heaven is lost merely for the lack of a perception of harmony. I could live my life in heaven on earth if only I see things as harmonious. No matter what my human eye or my human mind is declaring that it is, if I declare that it's harmony, I can live in heaven, right here on earth. I just finished a 6-week class on Emma Curtis Hopkins, and she says the same thing. Imagine that, as she was one of Ernest Holmes' teachers. But here's what she says. She says, I tell you that all that stands between you and your good, which belongs to you and which you ought to have, is your own idea of the absence of good. That's the only thing that stands in the way of my good, is my idea that it isn't good. Imagine that. So I think you all know the farmer story, but I'm going to tell it anyway. So there's a farmer, and he's poor, and he has a wife, and he has a son, and they have one horse which they plow their land with. And one day, he accidentally leaves the gate open, and the horse runs away. And the neighbors come bemoaning his bad fortune, and they say to him, we're so sorry that your horse ran away. Isn't it terrible? And he said, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. And that very night, his horse came back with 6 more horses. And the neighbors were so happy for him, and they came over and they said, we heard you got 6 new horses. What a blessing to you. And he said, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. And that night, his son got on one of those new horses to go for a ride, and the horse threw him, and when he landed, he broke his leg. And the neighbors heard about this, and they came running over saying, we heard about your son and his broken leg. Ain't it awful? And he said, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. And the next morning, recruiters came knocking on his door. War had broken out. And they were gathering all the boys and men of the village to go fight in the war. But guess what? They couldn't take his son because of his broken leg. And the neighbors rejoiced with him. And they came over and they said, you are so lucky they didn't take your son. What a blessing. And he said, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. You see, we just never know. But I choose, and it's a choice, to see the good. And maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But I'm going to declare that harmony is, and I'm going to experience heaven right here on earth. So the final quote that I came across, it's not Ernest Holmes. Actually, I don't know who it is. I saw it on Facebook, but I liked it. And here's what it says. When the root is deep, there is no reason to fear the wind. When I am anchored and grounded in spirit, which is why, by the way, I come here, because I get to strengthen my roots and deepen my faith with all of you. I don't have to fear the wind. It's a blessing. Well, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Thank you so much.
Good morning, everybody. Nice to see you, and happy St. Patty's Day. I'd like to quickly introduce this hat. Introduce the hat. Yeah. Oh, wait, it's not fit. Something's wrong. Okay. The 2 singers today, I'm very thankful to have them, Ms. Brenda Moore and Ms. Terry Page. Yes. Down in the front, playing percussion, the frame drum on all the jigs, Miss Erica Francis. Yeah. We are thrilled to have the violin here, as always. And I wrote that other chart for you, so you'll be back before St. Patrick's Day. Please welcome Miss Eden Living Good. Yeah. On the keys and the tin whistle, and David wrote 2 charts. Those first 2 songs we did, he wrote those 2 charts. Please welcome Mr. David Olivas. Yes. And next Saturday is Kent's birthday, so we have a special treat. Oh no, you play piano.
Oh.
I got a capo. I got capo. Okay, special treat for Kent. Here we go. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Kent. Happy birthday to you. Great. Okay, thought you'd like that one. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Are we in 6?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, the summer time is coming, and the trees are sweetly blooming, and the wild mountain thyme grows around the blooming heather. Will ye go, lassie, go? And we'll all go together to pluck wild mountain thyme all around the blooming heather. Will ye go, lassie, go? I will build my love a bower near yon pure crystal fountains, and on it I will pile all the flowers of the mountains. Will ye go, lassie, go? And we'll all go together to pluck wild mountain thyme all around the blooming heather. Will ye go, lassie, go? Oh, the summer time is coming, and the trees are sweetly blooming, and the wild mountain thyme grows around the blooming heather. Will ye go, lassie, go? And we'll all go together to pluck wild mountain thyme all around the blooming heather. Will ye go, lassie, go? And we'll all
Beautiful, right? Wow. I bet there's some damp eyes in the house. Thank you. That was really beautiful. Today is our annual membership meeting, as immediately following second service as possible. So we're going to eat. Don't worry. We're going to eat. We're going to eat good. I saw the refrigerator. There's lots of good food, but we're going to eat after the meeting. So we'd like to get through it as I don't want to say quickly as possible, but that's what I want to do. We're going to have the raffle also for the Tahoe trip. If you haven't got your tickets yet, you can still buy some tickets, maybe while we're eating, because that's when we'll have the drawing. Remember that we have Wednesday night service, Get Real and Heal meditation service. By the way, Kirtan Kara was here last Wednesday night. If you weren't here, listen, come support them. It's a wonderful opportunity to go deep and connect, feel your deep connection with Spirit when these guys are up here, well, Ken and his guys up here doing Kirtan Kara. It's fantastic. Please come. They're going to be here once a month for a while now. Bereavement Support Group is meeting Sunday, March 24th. All of this is up here, so you're probably reading it even before I'm saying it. But I do want you to become aware that we're starting something new on Wednesday nights once a month. It's Flourish is the name of it. And it's with Milena here is going to be hostessing different community organizations with kind of a question and answer informative session for us to see what's going on in the community with different agencies. And the first one coming on March 27th is Friends of the LA River, which we have been involved with for several years now. There's an event coming up on April 13th, which I'm going to talk about a little bit later. But come support that on Wednesday nights with Flourish. And then our semi-annual lay pastoral care team is going to be meeting on Sunday, March 31st. That's wonderfully, lovingly facilitated by practitioner Judy Dunkley. And is there anything else I really need to say before I stop talking? Oh, listen, may the 4th be with you. May the force be with you on the 3rd. May the 3rd is our spring fling. Mark it in your calendars. Chloe's got some shows. She's holding up some posters for me, so see Chloe about her upcoming shows. And Spring Fling, May the 3rd. May the 4th be with you on the 3rd. Okay. So if you'll stand, we will recite together the Declaration of Principles, please. And they're going to come up on the screen any second. On your marks, get set, go. We believe in one universal spirit manifesting through all, natural and incarnated in us. We believe that the universal spirit is personal to and reveals itself through everyone who recognizes its presence. We believe that our faith operates upon a law of mind which automatically manifests in our experience according to that faith. We believe in the unity of all life and in the immortality of the individual soul, forever expanding. We believe in the eternal goodness, the eternal loving kindness, and the givingness of life to all. Please remain standing for our song.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I am the heart, I am the hands, I am the voice of spirit on earth, and who I am and all I do is a blessing to the world. You are the heart, you are the hands, you are the voice of spirit on earth, and who you are and all you do is a blessing to the world. We are the heart, we are the hands, we are the voice of Spirit on earth. And who we are and all we do is a blessing to the world. I am the heart, I am the hands, I am the voice of Spirit on earth. And who I am and all I do is a blessing to the world. You are the heart, you are the hands, you are the voice of Spirit on earth. And who you are and all you do is a blessing to the world. Yeah. We are the heart, we are the hands, we are the voice of Spirit on earth. And who we are and all we do is a blessing to the world, is a blessing to the world, is a blessing to the world, is a blessing to the world.
Yeah, nicely done. So today is St. Patrick's Day, where we celebrate, among other things, the day St. Patrick drove the snakes out of Ireland. So this is from a stone rubbing off of one of the megalithic... It says, "I'm going to be sick. Are we there yet? I have to go to the bathroom. How much further?" And then, of course, Patrick kind of looking like me when I was driving kids around. But there you go. All right, so St. Patty, with a D, by the way, not a T. All right, so living, unspiritual life. I need to get Grammarly. All right, living a spiritual life. And the topic and value for this month, then, integrity, and be truthful in facts and motives. Consciousness, baby, what can I say? So last week, but by the way, that was really a great creative thought. Thank you. Very uplifting. Yes, this is going to be a lot darker than that. So last week, so thanks for lifting us up. So last week we spoke to the need to aspire to aligning with the idea of not only knowing intellectually that God is all there is, but also to allow the truth to be fully integrated in every aspect of our being. For when we live from this integrated place and this integrated space, we find that we are less challenged then by the worldly clamors of life, as we understand that our lives are a demonstration of the flow of life itself, and our consciousness is the driver of our experience. The driver of our experience. So in this way, we drive the snakes out of our own thinking out, right? By focusing on that which we are longing to experience. I think that's why, the whole St. Patrick's Day thing, it's significant in Ireland, but it's not like here in the States. And I don't know about other countries. And I think what it is, I'm having my own experience with that last song, trying to hold my stuff together, because I connect, I have a connection to these places. I have, my dad's from the hill country in Leitrim, or was. Shit. It still is. Right? Still is. So, connecting with, romping around the hills like that. So, good job, Ken. No, I mean that in the best way. So, these worldly clamors of life, as we understand that our lives are a demonstration of the flow of life, and our consciousness is the driver of our experience. And in this way, we are no longer subject to the slings and arrows of fate and fortune, or even the law of averages that Troward spoke to, or even statistics. Right? For statistics apply to groups, and you are not a group, you are an individual, having your own experience of life. Right? That you are at choice, that we are all at choice, regardless of what's going on in the outer world. So in other words, we demonstrate the ability to be the outlier, no longer subject to human race consciousness, no longer subject to the way the race thinks, but rather riding a wave of spiritual living, which is conscious living, demonstrating as right thought, right speech, and right action. And this is the great possibility for all human beings, and yet aren't there so many distractions, right? So many distractions to staying into that sweet spot of knowingness, that sweet spot of not only knowing, but experiencing the wholeness and oneness of life. Now, sometimes these distractions are fun, right? But all too often, heartbreaking. And as people of faith, we can use both to bring ourselves back to center, which means that we want to take time to consider where we are on the path of our spiritual awakening. So we're working this month with the writings of this fellow here, Reverend Dr. Howard Thurman, an amazing writer, was once called one of the top 12 most influential ministers in America in the 50s. So the guy's the real deal. And so speaking to this, being on our path of awakening and doing the work that we engage in to experiencing that in a greater way on a daily basis, he asked this: so when have you last had a good session with yourself? Or have you ever had it out with you? Right? Like really called yourself to task. That most often you are brought face to face with yourself only when such an encounter is forced upon you. And that usually it is in connection with the crisis situation. So Dr. Maureen used to say we're brought here either through desperation or inspiration. He's saying the same thing in a different way. So when have you had a good session with yourself? And isn't it so much easier to have it out with somebody else? Right? To have it out with somebody else, to take someone else's inventory rather than our own. When is the last time we have called on ourselves to check our own thinking, speech, or actions? For the carpenter himself seemed to say that it is far easier to ignore the log in our own eye. And there have been many occasions in these last several years to experience the world as a crisis situation. New Zealand just being the latest example. To be caught up in the mote in the other's eye, rather than tending to the log in our own. Because we are not the shooter, nor do we engage in hate speech, we can be pulled by our own righteous indignation that I'm not that, rather than our own indignation. Our own indignation around the idea of white supremacy, right? And still to say that I'm not that, rather than to examine, to engage in self-examination, to see how that may be so. Instead, we retreat to our circles of safety and what we believe we know to be true, rather than question our thinking or to examine why we think the things that we do. That do we have the strength of our convictions to speak out against hate of any kind? So I find it curious. See if this makes sense to you. I find it curious to consider the idea that we have chosen to incarnate at this precise point in time so that we too can come to the full realization that we demonstrate, that we have the potential to demonstrate the Father's imperial rule on earth as it is in heaven. Or to allow a world of derision and hate. And so we live in tension with these things, and it's like how to find our way out of the maze, right? Where one more time a shooter in a peaceful gathering, right? Inspired, by the way, by a Frenchman's book, right? So this really kind of transcends the race thing, right? When it's not in America, it's something else. And I think really what it is the payback for Eurocentric colonization. This is the payback, the karmic payback, if you will. Right? I mean, think about it. How many peoples have been displaced by European colonization? So the French are paying, this guy writes this whole book, not even exploring the idea that the French have been messing around in Africa and basically controlled North Africa. That the Brits came into America and the Spaniards into South, the whole Western Hemisphere. People were displaced, killed, even genocide. My point is that it's up to us, the Anglos, to really go, I think, the extra length to treat other people, all peoples, with the deepest respect and love that we can. Going the extra mile in this way, not to do penance, but as an act of acknowledgement. Because we can't roll back history, let's face it. It's not doable and it's not practical. But we can change the way that we think. And we can examine our own consciousness to see the ways where we shrink from stepping into a situation and speaking up or being better. And we don't. And so clowns, I mean, the guy that was a psycho, let's face it, all these guys are psychos. Right? Don't fall off your chair there tomorrow. But isn't it curious that we have chosen to incarnate in this particular slice of time so that we too can come to the full realization that this is ours to do, that we can either choose to demonstrate our guarded dreams of peace, harmony, prosperity, and reserve them only for our own families, or people who think like we do, or we can courageously share these aspirations of our own heart with the outer world of conditions. Can we courageously step into actions that cultivate peace in a greater world by not only our spiritual example and practice, but by participating in ways that serve others? In other words, to be seen, and to be seen as religious scientists who profess to know better. Yes? Are we awake or are we asleep? We are awake, or we are awakening to what? Our spiritual magnificence. And awakening to the idea that so is everyone else. So if we're bunkered down in our own consciousness, we're missing the real juice. The real juice of participating with the law of life in all of its expressions and grandeur and beauty and light and love. So in this way, we not only shift and lift our own lives, but we raise the vibration. We raise the vibration in the conditions of experience all around us, even in New Zealand or in France. As religious scientists, we are often so focused on increasing the good in our own life that little time is left outside of our own tent, whether it's our family tent or our spiritual community tent. But it is precisely when we shift the focus off ourselves and include our brothers and sisters around us, including the global community, that we experience a shift in our spiritual practice, that we then become a way shower. A way shower. And dare I say, even a small b bodhisattva. Right? Where we make a choice to step out of our comfortable zone and to step into ways that are far more courageous expressions of the divine. Now, there's part of me, I got to say, for myself, it's like, what an order, I can't go through with it. Because I do know the ways that I play small with this. But this, I feel like there has never been a more important time to do these kinds of things in our lifetime. Right? Where Vietnam may have torn at generational differences, we have today deep divisions that have emerged out of the shadows that have unleashed a global uncivil war that continues to erupt in violence. Recent events in New Zealand would appear to bear this out. So one more time, the work begins right where we are. And Howard Thurman spoke to this when he said that whatever the occasion, there comes a deep necessity which leads us finally into the closet with ourself. It is here that you raise the real questions about yourself. The leading one is, what is it, after all, that I amount to ultimately? Right? This is the great existential question of midlife, right? That such questions cut through all that is superficial and trivial in life to the very nerve center of ourself. And I would add, when I'm alone in the closet, examining my thinking, I think it's helpful to ask, what am I afraid of? What am I afraid of? Because that is the limiting thing. What am I afraid of? What am I afraid of to my person? What am I afraid of for my family? What am I afraid of in the world? And then ultimately, who am I with these thoughts of fear? And how do I show up? How do I show up in the world? Am I really stepping into my greatness fully and completely? And greatness being expressions of love, tolerance, understanding, right? Seeking first to understand rather than be understood, to listen rather than talk. When I can. And then ultimately, and also, let's face it, some of these things that I'm speaking to, it may be afraid, we may simply be afraid that they may be true. And this too can have an impact on our consciousness. Because we have witnessed once again the aftermath of shallow thinking. So, I find it, to me, the truth is often a circuitous path, right? That straight line thinking, black and white thinking, is usually very shallow. And that the aftermath of shallow black and white thinking and the judgment that goes with it, and sadly the hate and violence that often accompanies it, violence against ourselves, violence against the other, the planet, flashing, slashing around like an angry rebel without a cause, flailing around like a blind man with a sword, struggling to get out of a maze of our own creation, a maze of our own thinking. And that these considerations are dark. And as your spiritual director, it's my job to provoke you. It's great to speak about all the wonderful things that we can demonstrate in life. But if it's just about me, right, then it's just like a prosperity scam. And that's not what we're doing here, right? We are building a spiritual community that has principled tenets as its foundation, that encourage its participants to broaden our ideas of what God is intellectually, and to have an experience of the divine of the heart that allows us a sense, and then through meditation and spiritual mind treatment, allows us to get some clarity about our life, our part in it, see what's revealed, feel the feelings, heal, and then heal through spiritual mind treatment. Knowing what? God is all there is, and in some crazy cosmic way, regardless of my judgments around it, I'm one with that I can speak my word with authority, I can live in gratitude and release that idea, and it's brought to fruition with varying degrees of effectiveness, bound only by my faith in it, or my fear around it, or my judgment of it. Take your pick. So these considerations are so dark that we don't want to look at them, but look at them we must if we are to find our way out of this maze, out of the outward condition, to call forth a new way of being for ourselves and all of our brothers and sisters, regardless of race, ethnicity, creed, or whom they love, or even how old they are, by the way. That we must step into knowing the Spirit is in and as all of life, regardless of any perception to otherwise. And that this is the mandate of all believers and all people of faith. And Holmes says that faith is such a crucial component of this, because why is it? Why is it that faith is the strongest mental attitude? Because it is positive, therefore makes an absolute impression upon the consciousness. So in stating that no thought can reach you except the thought of absolute good, the more faith you have, the more positive will our conviction be. And this does not need to be strenuous, right? So we're not like sitting there, focusing our thought, trying not to have an errant thought, but rather just relaxing into knowing that we are one with the law of life, that we are one with the Spirit, that it is our good Father, it is our Father's good pleasure to give us the keys to the kingdom, right? And that through the example of the carpenter, this and more shall be added unto you, and greater things shall ye do, right? But we have to do them. Right? There's thinking about doing them. There's the intention about doing them. There's the intention of showing up for the river project, the river cleanup. And then there's actually showing up and picking up trash. It's very glamorous. Right? And yet you can see the one act picking up a group of people. Right? So using this as a metaphor for consciousness, a group of people picking up the errant thought within their own lives. As race consciousness, what do you end up with? A clean river stream, right? A clean stream of consciousness, no longer muddied by errant thinking. Boy, that was good. I'm glad we're recording this. So why is that faith the strongest mental attitude? It's positive, and it leads to this and greater things. Right? So that's the carrot. That's the spiritual carrot being held before this donkey. Right? That greater things through these practices, by practicing these spiritual principles, that when events of violence erupt, particularly against people meeting peacefully, whether in New Zealand or here at home in Las Vegas, we don't have to go that far. It can tear at our hearts. Boy, we could rip off a half dozen events that have happened in this country in just the last 3 or 4 years. Maybe even lead us to a dark place about the state of the world and our place in it. And Reverend Molly Cameron reminds us, if should we go there, that emotional pain urges us toward meaning. If we are curious enough to look at the truth about how we've lived our lives up until now, we also find that we're brave enough to start taking steps towards who we really want to be. Right? And so that might mean getting angry. Right? But not getting angry, like Paul would say, to be angry and not sin. But to use that anger then as a catalyst for change. Right? Determination can have a lot of anger in it to propel us forward. Persistence. Stubbornness applied in the right way. Stubbornness where we refuse to see anything but God the good. And to know that there's good for me and I ought to have it. To stubbornly cling to that idea. So that very often, she continues, very often but not always, we find ourselves connecting. We find ourselves connecting to a deeper sense of who we are and a growing sense of faith. That we become conscious then of our spiritual nature. Right? So we forget. We forget and we think that we're of this world. But the truth of our being is that we are spiritual beings having this human experience. That we're spiritual beings growing up all over each other, as Kathy Hearn would say. Right? So that we can have what? Not only a greater experience of life, but a greater experience of God as life. A greater experience of those around us as life. So we practice that here in spiritual community. That's why it's so important to support it by doing things like going to general meetings. Yeah, well, the crowd will thin out. And I'm going to challenge you to stick around for the meeting, particularly new people who haven't seen what this is like. It's much more democratic than most spiritual communities than maybe you're used to. It's important because here we learn how to demonstrate the power of the living Spirit. Right? First in stuff and things, and then in a greater way. So the stuff and things is just to prove, wow, this stuff really works. This shift really works. Right? By shifting and lifting the tendency of my thinking, I really can affect change for good in my life. And then to fall so in love with that power and presence that you want to share it with others. Right? So that's like radical spirituality. And there's, why can't? There's no priests or rabbis or stuff like this. You are the holy priesthood. Do you get that? Good news, bad news, right? In spite of what you think about that, because I got to tell you, when I look out here, all I see is magnificence. Even David. That was quite a tune you played, too. All right, so one more from Holmes. The power behind all things, and then we'll sit down. The power behind all things of itself is without limit. It is all power. In us, it becomes what we permit it to be. That our destiny is in our own hands. when we rise to an elevated state of consciousness where we see all things in their completeness and know that an all-wise power is behind it all, we see that the infinite could wish for us only that which expresses itself in limitless terms. So, in spite of what we think about the challenges in our life, whether in this life or the global life, the work is still ours to do. Right? When you show up at a church like this, right, the light is on. Right? You're not going to be able to go back to the old way of thinking. So why not step into the fullness of life? Why not step into the infinite power and presence of the Spirit and allow it to do its thing by means of you to bring forth that's what you are longing to express as life. It's a co-creative gig, man. Right? Unlike no other. So let's step into it. Let's step into it. So let's call the musicians forward. This is a view from, that's Crow Patrick in the background there, from Ireland, from Achill. And this is a little marker where, well, never mind. That's even too dark for me. But let's just say it's a gravestone. But it's a lovely spot. And so let's just take a breath. And just recognizing and knowing that we are connecting to the very law of life right here and right now. That as we consider this idea of St. Patrick's Day, we consider that this people is a faithful people connected to their Celtic roots in ways that call all of us to be an anam cara, or soul friend. Gaelic for soul friend, anam cara. So we look into our hearts and we see wherever that shadow may be hanging around, and we allow ourselves to just observe it and to bring in a conscious way the light of the Spirit to it. And that old adage, it takes but one candle to curse the darkness. That there's nothing to fight or to struggle with, but only to bring light to. That this light is within each one of us. And that in a very conscious way today, this Sabbath day, we call forth that light. After the general membership meeting. And express the divine in, through, and as this day, and take that into our work day. And come back and report next week.
Are calling from glen to glen and down the mountainside. The summer's gone and all the roses falling. 'Tis you must go and I must bide. But come ye back when summer's in the meadows, or when the valley's hushed and white with snow. 'Tis I'll be here in sunshine or in shadow. Oh, Danny boy, oh, Danny boy, dead as I will maybe, you'll come and find the place where I am lying, and kneel and say an Ave there for me, and I shall hear though soft you tread above me, and all my grave will softer, warmer be, for you will bend and tell me that you love me, and I shall sleep in peace until you come to me.
Brenda Moore.
I picked a good day to pack 2 handkerchiefs. All right, so as we prepare our gifts for the offering, we'll call our ushers forward and a rousing tune to do it with.
From the top. Here we go.
All right. Well, who needs espresso when you have music like that?
I want that.
All right, let's take a deep, conscious breath, just releasing it and allowing ourselves to acknowledge the gifts presented here this morning, whether in the baskets here or online through our online contributions. And of course, those watching online, this is your opportunity to participate as well. That we recognize and know that these gifts are a demonstration of consciousness, right? A demonstration of consciousness of the individual. And so through that consciousness of generosity expressed here, that we accept these gifts as this spiritual community with deep respect and love. As we know together, they go forth to heal, to prosper, and to bless the lives and the vision of each one here this morning, the life vision of each person connected to this center in any way. That we extend these glad tidings and this blessing to our friends here in our community of Granada Hills, our city of Los Angeles, our state of California, our United States of America, all of its churches, temples, mosques, schools, universities, the people who attend them, the people who support them, and our planet as well, that we know that all of it in some crazy cosmic way is an emanation from the very mind of the Spirit itself. And to the extent that we know this to be so, we see it demonstrating in ways great and small. This lifts our hearts. We feel a sense of joy and grace and power that propel us into ways of spiritual living that shift and lift not only our own lives, but the lives of those around us. And that's a good thing. And together we acknowledge this by saying, and so it is. So let's thank our ushers this morning. Lovely Rita and Miss Chloe. Hello there. How you doing? Good. Thank you. Good to see you. You ran out last time. I didn't get a chance to say hello to you, so I wanted to make sure I did that. So, did you talk to Gramps today?
Not yet.
No, not yet. Oh, yeah. So tell everybody your name.
Hello, my name is Akira.
And what did you guys do today?
Today we talked about making a heaven out of hell or a hell out of heaven. And yeah, I had an example which was Disneyland. And I realized that at Disneyland I was always looking at the small things, how there was a lot of people, and that got me aggravated. But then looking back, I realized I had an amazing time with my family and an amazing time on the rides.
Very nice.
Also, this is my green, so you can't pinch me.
Very good. Thanks for the heads up. Hello, sweetie.
My name's Ayana.
Hi, Ayana.
We made, what did you make?
We made 4-leaf clovers.
And we used the word lucky as an acronym. Figured that was a big word for her.
And
What
we
was
wrote
each word?
a word on a clover and set this one.
What was
One-
your word? What was the first one for L?
Leprechaun.
And what was for you?
Unconditional. Clover.
Clover was our dog's name. Okay. And K was for,
Kindness.
and Y was for.
Yourself.
Very nice.
Yourself.
Nice job. Thank you, Charlene. You want to say good morning?
Good morning. My name is Andreas, and I was making a St. Patrick's Day one, and I was doing it. I was writing on the whiteboard.
All right. Very good. With excellent penmanship, I might add. Yes, really. I mean, perfect handwriting. It's really something to see. Given that that is not my forte. Anyone who's received a note from me knows this. All right, so let's take a moment to first thank our guest musician, Miss Eden Lovingood. Lovingood, living good. Either way. Brenda Silas Moore, our soloist on the second song. And of course, Carrie and Brenda were our backup singers. Keep it coming. And then the band. Yes. The instigators of sobbing. Nicely done. And so let's invite Andre up, pray us out. Now, don't go anywhere because we have what's next? And then we're going to do what? Eat. Manja. All right.
So I invite all the practitioners and ministers to please circle up and just surround this congregation in love, as together we recognize that there is really and truly only one power, one life, one eternal origin of all that is, all that was, and all that ever shall be. It is God, it is love, it is all good, all knowing, all giving, and all loving. I recognize that it's expressing as each one of us here today and every day. And it is in this place of oneness, from this consciousness of unification, that I declare and announce and proclaim that we have been shifted and lifted into a new way of being today, that we are awake and aware of our spiritual magnificence, and we just bravely and courageously step out of our comfort zones into our greatest yet to be, as we shine the light of our own magnificence through the eyes with which we recognize that same magnificence in everyone that we gaze our glance upon. How grateful I am to know that this is the truth of who and what we are, and I just lovingly declare that this is so as I release this word to that aspect of spirit known as the law, which always and forever and only says yes. So I know that it is done. It is so. That is all. Please join me in agreeing with this by saying, and so it is. Amen. Don't leave. Please don't leave. Stay for our meeting. We're going to allow the band to probably take their stuff out of here, right? And then we're going to get started right away. Thank you, and join us for the peace song.
Thank you. Yeah, please stand for the peace song.